Charlie just posted about it, so we're gonna watch his video. But to preface this, Pokimane's editor said that he had trouble editing her videos because he couldn't fight his addiction of masturbating. Yeah. Yeah.
There's a crazy clip from Pokimane.
Yeah, yeah. I could be wrong. I could be off on some of that, but that's that's pretty much the gist of it.
There's a crazy clip from Pokimane's stream going viral right now that I really want to talk about, but it also made me want to speak on a story I've never told about an experience I've had that's somewhat similar to the one she describes here, at least in terms of creepiness. And, well, now I finally have a reason to get that baby off my chest here, so that's gonna be cathartic. Let's dive in.
Many, many years ago, when I was like super omega active on YouTube and I was working with a lot of different editors, there was one editor in particular that I would work with a lot because his edits were really, really good, but he had one major problem, which was that sometimes out of nowhere his videos would just be like a week or two late. Months go by and he messages me out of the blue and he says, "Hey, do you have time to talk? I'm ready to finally tell you why I've been struggling so much with deadlines."
In the history of the human race, I don't think there has ever been a good ending to the sentence, "Hey, do you have a minute to talk?"
Never.
That always
Never.
precedes the most vile shit you'll ever hear in your
Never.
life. I can't even imagine a situation where you'd hear that sentence and think anything other than the most negative thing you'll ever hear is about to happen.
Fact.
Like, imagine you're in heaven and the Lord pulls you aside right in front of the pearly gates and he says, "Hey, you got a minute to talk?" Well, you immediately assume you're just going to hell. Like, there's just no world where that sentence ever precedes good news.
Tell me why he proceeds to tell me that the reason why he would sometimes turn around videos a week or two late is because he couldn't stop touching himself. I was trying to pick which word to use.
Oh, I'm blocking the screen.
To me, his, in a way, employer of many, many months.
Stop for a second and really let that stew in your noodle. Let it marinate for a bit. How Coomer-brained must you be not only to do this degenerate act of just fucking beating your meat to a streamer's gameplay footage that you're editing, but then
Admit it.
tell her that the reason you're late on some of the edits is because you can't stop squeezing your hog.
Dog, nigga. Beating your meat to gameplay footage is crazy, nigga. I don't like. What do you even find? Is it the voice? Is it the voiceover? Bro? Is it when she screams at a jump scare? Like, what gets you going? Like, what gets that wiener rising, bro? What gets the blood pumping, bro? What's happening? What? All of it? All right, you're done. You're done. You're done. Because he finds you attractive as hell? Nigga, it don't matter how attractive you find somebody. No one is whipping out their cock and just beating your shit. And if you are, you need genuine help. If you think, oh my God, she's hot, so I'm just going to say this now. If you're the type of nigga to beat off to pictures, you need help. Like, you need help. Like, there's no other way to put it, nigga. If you genuinely have to beat your dick to a picture, you need help. Like, it's just, don't beat your meat, nigga. What are you doing? What are you doing, bro? What the fuck are you doing? That's the type of dude I'm imagining he is, bro. Like, it's just like, if you have to sit there and concoct some shit just to beat your meat, it's like, stop. Just stop. Just stop.
The reason you're late on some of the edits is because you can't stop squeezing your hog to the footage that she sends you. There are so many layers to this onion here. Let's just start by picking apart the most obvious. Why? Now, I know in the most severe cases of porn addicts, they'll sometimes try and communicate directly to the porn star by, like, leaving comments or sending messages or whatever, and that's always the saddest shit you'll ever see. That'll bring a tear to even the strongest man's eyes. Occasionally you'll see those moments where dudes try and directly communicate to the porn star, leaving comments on their posts saying things like, "Can't wait to watch this one when I'm off work," or "When my wife goes to bed, that's when the bad boy will play. Thanks for providing me with tonight's entertainment," whatever. Like, just leaving these desperate posts.
Man, I have a confession. I have a confession. When I want to say 16 or 17, bro, I knew of the best way to get in touch with porn stars, bro. And I don't exactly remember their names, but I was pretty deep back then enough to reach out. I reached out. It was on Tumblr, bro. Tumblr was the way. It wasn't Twitter, but it was Tumblr. You can find their Tumblr page, and you could ask them questions, DM them, and they would answer, bro. They would answer, man. Would I consider myself an addict? I mean, if I'm reaching out to people, probably yes. I probably was. Probably was and didn't realize. Probably was and didn't realize, bro. But yeah, dog, that just brought back that memory, bro.
You know, cock in hand, giving a salute, like, thank you, madame, for your service. This will be a legendary gooning sesh. But even in those cases, they're communicating with someone they don't know. This guy was her editor for many months. And he was not only jerking off to the content he was being sent, which was just gameplay videos, I imagine, or like
Among
just
Us,
chatting stream
right?
moments. Nothing even sexual. And he was still choking the chicken to it, fucking playing the skin flute. And then had the gall to tell her that he was doing that.
But like, you know when you have an addiction and they tell you to admit? You know, like when you have an addiction and you're trying to get over the addiction, they tell you to admit admit what you did was wrong and talk to the person. So maybe he's just like trying to get out of it. You know, maybe he's just like, you know, I'm finally ready to beat this fucking addiction here. Like I've been fucking jerking my shit to all of Pokimane's videos, my nigga. Her Among Us content, her house tours, whenever she brings the dog on screen. Like I just been going nuts to Pokimane content. And he's like, I need to tell her, bro. I'm finally ready to break this. One day he just had a fucking switch flip. And he was like, yeah, I have to make a change, bro. And the first thing is to admit. Is to fucking admit your wrongs. Maybe that's what he was doing, bro. Because I'm pretty sure that's in Alcoholics. Don't clip that. Hold on, pause. Don't clip that. There's a lot of things we can clip. There's a lot. No. I realize that's going to be taken crazy out of context. Don't clip that, nigga. Don't clip that. Let's not clip that. Let's not. Because like, no, seriously though, hear me out. Pokimane is already way too over sexualized on the internet, and it just ain't right. And I'm not trying to be in that group like to make it seem like it was like that, because it's not like that. I was just making a comment. Seriously, like if you care about my safety and you know about my peace of mind, don't do that. Don't do that. Hear me out, bro. Don't do that. But yeah, isn't in Alcoholics Anonymous, the first thing is to admit your addiction, right?
Is just incomprehensibly unhinged. She was his boss. She was employing him. So he basically went right through HR, bypassed that protocol, went straight to the top of the food chain, kicked in the door, and said, listen, boss, I'm fucking obliterating my wiener, and what are you gonna do about it? That's why I've been late on my deadlines. Like, I don't think he came in with that energy. I bet he was, like, super shy about it. He was probably like, oh, Pokimane, so I know I've been kind of late recently, but it's only because I was, how do you say, jerking off to your work.
When I tell you
I was giving a little spanky wanky. Pokimane, I'm so sorry, but, like, that last Among Us gameplay, it just had me really juiced up, Pokey. You had me really juiced up.
halted a conversation so fast.
Jerking off to your work.
When I tell you I've never halted a conversation so
bro, what do you
fast,
even do?
because I'm like, you are the person that I send like hours of footage to. I don't want to know what you're jacking it to. I don't want to know more. I shouldn't even know how much I know right now. I shouldn't know.
I'd actually argue that it's better she did know this, no matter how awful it is. But that way she can get the fuck away from this weirdo ASAP. Just say, take a hike, Buster. This is fucking terrible.
But I felt so bad. So when he's like, you know, like this is like an addiction of mine, I genuinely felt really, really bad. So I still paid him for months.
Oh, wow.
What the hell do I do?
Wow.
Fire him?
Yes.
Am I even allowed to fire someone because they're
Beating their
That's
dick to
definitely
your...
towards the top of the list for the best reasons to fire someone.
Right,
That actually
what?
might be reason number one why you could go ahead
Should
and
I
can
even
someone.
fire someone?
Because they can't stop fucking beating their cock to you, their employer. And they're also not doing their job well by being 1 to 2 weeks late, which, by the way, is a long time of just fucking gooning here. This degenerate would miss his deadlines by a week or even up to 2 weeks because he was obsessively polishing his scepter to his employer.
Why
You
do you have so many
100%
ways of
can
saying
and
this?
should fire someone like this. It's not like the Better Business Bureau is going to defend him. You're not going to have agents show up at your door knocking and be like, hey, listen, we know what happened here. You discriminated against this kind, gentle sir. You fired him just because he was obsessively masturbating to you. Well, I'll have you know this is a free country, ma'am. This is a civilized society. You can't fire someone for that. There's no crime. What is the charge? Busting a nut? An immaculate, gooey nut? This is democracy manifest. Like that just wouldn't happen. But I actually understand why she was hesitant to do that. And this is where I'm going to get into a story I don't think I've ever told. I'm pretty sure I haven't. Where I had something somewhat similar happen a long time ago. Not to this level, but something closely related. So a while back, I used to just accept any voice acting role I was offered by any human being with a pulse on the planet. If they said they needed voice lines done, I would do them for free just because I really enjoyed doing it. It's actually how I met Jackson, and if you have ever watched the official podcast, you'll know that our X-Men origin story between Jackson and I's friendship is that Jackson actually scammed me through this process. He sent me an email asking if I'd be down to do voice work for his upcoming game, and then sent me like some in-game screenshots and promotional screenshots that were actually just Dark Souls images that he photoshopped to fit his game style that he tried to sell me on. I was like, yeah, fuck yeah, I'm definitely down to do voice work. And it turns out he never had that game. He just wanted to play games together. And we did, and ended up becoming extremely close friends. And now we make God Slap together. Like, he's been a friend of mine for almost a decade now. And it came from that. But there's definitely a dark side to that. The Sith Lords definitely did exploit that very stupid thing I used to do. Just accepting any voice acting roles ever.
They put you
from
on
anybody.
Newgrounds, didn't they?
So
They put you on
I think this was
fucking
after
Newgrounds,
I
bro.
had met Jackson and after we were friends. I can't quite remember the exact chronological timeline here, but I
Tell me.
received a very interesting email from a very peculiar man that, under any other circumstances, probably would have triggered red flags in a sensible person's mind. But for me, I saw the word like voice acting opportunity and I was like, I'm in. Say no more. So I emailed him back saying that I was absolutely down to do this and when should we get to work on it. So we communicated back and forth a little bit and eventually set up a Skype call, because this is when Skype was still popular. I think one of the best things that's happened in modern day is that Skype has died. That was legitimately just like fucking official malware. That was the worst program that ever saw success, and I am embarrassed that it ever got as popular as it did. But this was a different time and day back then. So we went in Skype and we had our first voice call a couple days after that initial email came through. And it wasn't like super weird. He conducted himself pretty professionally. He was trying to tell me about the game. I don't remember all the details around it. It was a game that never was going to happen, though. It was unbelievably ambitious. It was some kind of like MMO hack and slash with like a super deep branching plot lines, all made by him, the solo dev. He was just spamming every buzzword he could about this game, but again, it didn't matter to me because
I just wanted
it
to
was
do a
voice
voiceover.
acting work,
Yeah.
and I wanted to get the reps in. And so I just said, yeah, like I'm super on board. Let's stay in contact. You can send me the script and whatever else you need. And that was kind of the end of our like introductory call. And man, did I open Pandora's box. Pretty much immediately after that call, he would start messaging me on Skype often. And it wasn't about the project all the time. Sometimes it was just about his day, which I would engage with. I'd be like, oh, it's really interesting to hear about how your day's been going. Thanks so much for sharing. And then he'd start tiptoeing into like some other small talk. It started to feel like he was interrogating me sometimes, where he'd be like,
What you doing, buddy?
so what'd you do today? And I'd tell him, be like, oh, so like you didn't really respond earlier. I thought you were just doing something really important, but you were just hanging out at home. That's kind of weird. Like, what? Are you sure that's all you're doing? I was like, brother, yeah. I mean, I don't know. I'm just not like always on Skype. He's like, oh, no, that's fine. You just
respond to me.
Just respond to me.
Like,
and then he'd start gradually asking more and more questions, like questions you would ask someone on like the most awkward first date imaginable if you were some kind of Reddit mod. He'd be like asking me certain things like about anime and just like general interests.
He just wanted to be your friend, Charlie.
And this is right before I had graduated college. I was still in college because I remember he was asking me about how my schooling was going. And I was like, yeah, I mean, it's going well. How's your project going? And he'd tell me some shit that I know wasn't happening. He's like, oh yeah, I got a lot of work done today on the game. I was in C#, really just fucking in my flow state. I took like the limitless pill, and man, I programmed fucking 15 trees, and I have 17 actors doing mocap for me, and they're all martial arts specialists, so the hack and slash animations are top notch. And I was like, oh, that's awesome. Do you have like that script or anything ready? He's like, oh, it's still being worked on. And then he just keep kicking that can down the road and change the topic of like, but enough about the game. Tell me about exercise physiology. What's that like? And it's like, brother, you're not my mom. Why are you checking in like this? I don't care. And we're not really like close or anything. So why would you get upset if I don't like respond to you in a timely enough fashion? Like, it was just a disaster. So this went on for like a few weeks of this kind of stuff happening every couple of days, and I was ready to just wash my hands of it and just say, all right, this voice work isn't worth, I'm not getting the juice isn't worth the squeeze, as they say. So I kind of just started to let that peter out. I'd really very rarely respond to him, so he'd send me like a few messages over the course of like a week or two that I just would ignore. And then it got really bad. This guy was sending me like deep messages, and some of them just very unsettling. Oh god. And then he eventually sent me a message talking about how he's about to end it all. And, he doesn't expect me to respond since I haven't responded in so long, but he just wanted me to know how much our friendship meant to him and all that. And I fucking freaked out, immediately responded to that when I saw it. And then he once again just switched gears and was like talking about my day and his day and this and that. And once again, just going down this small talk and then like interrogating me like, well, why haven't you been responding? So that I had to come up with a story like, oh, just haven't been checking Skype for the last few weeks, just stuff going on. He's like, oh, okay, yeah, no, okay, yeah, I'm sure. And then getting upset and whatever. I recommended him getting like professional help, which he claimed he was doing and seeking, but it wasn't really working. The only thing that really helped him was our little chit-chats back and forth. So obviously I kept that door open, and luckily the frequency of his messages was much slower. So over the course of a few months now, the messages were far less often. So it wasn't that big of a deal, but it still just felt miserable to keep this communication open. It felt like a hostage situation where like if I didn't respond, he might do something, and it was scary. Mm-hmm. And as this continued for quite some time,
realistically though, he could have got those voiceovers really, and could have been beating his meat to your voiceover, bro. Like, if this is how the story ends, that would be crazy, but like reasonable, a little bit more reasonable, because it's like, you do have a calming voice, Charlie. You do.
He'd make threats occasionally of harming himself if I didn't respond in like a fucking speedrun fashion to one of his messages. When I got into a relationship, he sent a really creepy message about like, well, is it serious? Why is it serious? What do you see in her? That kind of thing. Like, it was all really alarming shit. And I'm not going to keep boring you with details here, but similar to how Pokimane didn't immediately fire that guy because she like felt bad for him or was like a little afraid of what might happen or whatever, it's easy to take a step back when you're not involved in it and just be like, oh, this is what you should have done. But when you're actually in one of these like really weird fucking situations on like a personal level here, it's just a little harder to do that. So I do understand that, but again, definitely the right course was firing that guy. In my situation, eventually what I did was I just stopped responding. If he did send me one of those messages, I would reply just telling him he needs professional help, and I won't talk further about these kind of things with him because I am not a professional. I'm not equipped to deal with that or handle that or help him in any way. He needs real help. And that would be how I'd respond to those messages when he sent them, and he eventually stopped. Makes sense. That went on for a long time. But yeah, anyway, just kind of wanted to talk about all this. That's about it. See ya.
Yep. So yeah, bro, Pokimane. Strange story to drop on stream there, but I think the editor's fired now.